Hey, what up, Van City? This is Lloyd, and you know I got soul.
All right, Lloyd,
I hope
back
so.
in Vancouver.
Yeah,
It's been about
yeah.
2 years since we last spoke.
Yep.
A lot has changed in 2 years. First of all, last time we spoke, you were just on the tail end of your hiatus. Just talk about the break and how necessary that was for you.
Well, I think sometimes you have to take a step backwards in order to take a step forwards. And oftentimes you can feel like you actually moving forwards, but you're going backwards. It's a funny thing how that works. For me, I'm really thankful that God has blessed me with patience on behalf of my fans, on behalf of, just the people who matter, who support me and who spend, their hard-earned money and time to be there, like tonight when I came to Van City for the first time in a year. And I'm also thankful to just have time on my side to be able to figure out what I wanted to say in my music, how I wanted that to sound, and how I ultimately wanted people to feel about it. And I can honestly say that it has been one of the most challenging years in my life, but it's really been the most rewarding by far, because I really appreciate all that I have, and I also appreciate what I don't have, and why that is. So
Cool. And a lot of people don't realize, even though your debut came out in 2004, you had been in the music industry for a lot longer than that. Never really had a chance to sit back and, do your own personal stuff. So, you went back to school, got your GED.
Yep.
On
Yep.
stage, you were playing the guitar. Do you think that was, the fruits to your labor going on that break?
I think that was all parts and pieces to the puzzle. Learning a new instrument takes a lot of time. At least it does for me, So that was necessary. I think really just being able to spend time with people who I really love was important to me. Like you said, I've been making music since I was 10 years old. I put my first album out in 1999. My first solo project came out in 2004, which was Southside. This marks the 10-year anniversary this year for Street Love. So, I've been pretty dedicated to making music being my life's work. And when I got an opportunity to take a little time off, I did. And I think I'm thankful for that, because not everyone has that opportunity, that blessing to be able to take a break like that. It was never about the money to come back to make the music. It was really about how it would make people feel. And I think True is something that was necessary to take, time to make. So big shout out to everybody in Vancouver for supporting True, and for requesting it and streaming it, downloading it, and ultimately connecting with it.
Cool. The last time we spoke, you had just left, the major situation at Interscope. You had put out Playboy Diaries Volume 1, which was your first offering as an independent artist. So from there up until now, what have you learned about being an independent artist that's going to help you moving forward?
I learned as an independent artist, since releasing my first mixtape, Playboy Diaries, I learned the importance of relationships in any industry. I think that relationships matter a lot more than money sometimes. And when you have good relationships, when you value people, when you respect them, and when you treat them ultimately how you would like to be treated, I think that goes a long way. And sometimes when you have to work with less, because I think there always comes a time where we have to deal, and we have to make lemonade out of lemons, if you will. It's really nice to have those people support. And I don't think that True would be as successful as it is today without the relationships of people at radio, at producers and songwriters, at just people really like giving me time and support, which is more valuable than any amount of money. And I also learned that it's 2017 and the world is about being independent. I think all the people who I admire the most were independent at some point. We have access to our fans directly now. Unlike when Lloyd first came into the game in 1999, you had to know somebody who knew somebody. You had to sign away a part of your soul just to, achieve a piece of your dream. And you don't have to do that anymore. You can really just be self-sufficient and involved, and that's really what I wanted to do with this. Even though I feel like a bit of a veteran, I've been making music for a while, as we said, but it was some things that I hadn't earned, that I hadn't learned, and I hadn't really tried, and being independent fully was one of them. So, True was really about one's independence.
And the record True, one of our favorites of the year. Love that record. But, it's a record that doesn't really make sense in terms of mainstream success. How were you able to put a slow song out and have it climb the urban charts? Because everything on urban right now is trap, or you're on urban AC.
Well, I think that they're all different reflections of the human experience. And when you, really, I guess, exploit those experiences in pop culture, I think there's always room for that. For me, it was more of a realistic approach. It was, not so much based on escapism, and it was ultimately realizing that greatness doesn't always live in the club. Sometimes it lives in the little tedious things in your life, the everyday things in your life.
Cool.
For me personally, I never really wanted it to be a big selling single. I won't say I didn't want it, because that's a lie. I'll say I didn't expect it to be a big selling single. I didn't expect it to be a blockbuster smash hit. I didn't expect for people to sing it in a club like they did tonight. But what I did expect was for people to have some feeling, some soul, and ultimately some kind of representation of, the fact that we are perfectly imperfect, and that's okay. That's dope. So
cool. I've spoken to so many artists from your generation who feel like there's not really a middle ground. As I mentioned, you're either doing the trap stuff or you're on urban AC. So I want to ask you, as number one, Lloyd, as the person who's from the South, as well as Lloyd, the R&B singer, how do you kind of balance that trap with what you're doing? Is there a balance?
Well, Lloyd is Lloyd. I mean, that's the name I record under. That's the name I perform under. That's my real name, the name I was born under. So Lloyd is just a representation of himself. And I think all those things can be accounted for, but no one thing in particular. And, the dope thing about recording under your real name is that it gives you the real, true opportunity to be yourself, to express, who you really are, and to never hide from who you are. And, I think that's why, I'll always continue to, I think, talk about all those things.
Dope. And along with the single True, you put out the EP. What I loved about the EP was it was just classic Lloyd. Didn't really deviate too much from what made you, what got you here. The one song that really got me was Excited. That one stood out. Just talk about that song and how it all came together.
Excited was a tribute to the SOS band, who was one of my mom's favorites and an influence in my life early. It was, I think, a throwback to the 80s music that I really loved so much. And it was also about having fun. It was about, something that people could dance to, obviously. And it was also about, I think, kind of getting back to visualizing the performance. Also, not only just having a great studio record, but also doing something that I could really perform on camera. So Excited is also something I just filmed a video for, and I think that it'll make people want to dance. So
dope. And then lastly, of course, now you're working on the LP, Out My Window. Just talk about the album and what the approach is with it. What's the sound going to be like?
Out My Window is a record that I'm working on, that I've been working on. True was one of the records that I wrote in the collective of my first songs, which originally I wanted to call Out My Window, but I think True kind of spoke for itself. So I let True be its own thing, and now I'm going to release a full-length project called Out My Window. I don't know exactly when, but it's slated for later this year, and I hope people enjoy it.
Cool. And that's all I've got for you. Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, no, boy, it's never goodbye. It's always I'll see you later. So, Van City, I'll see you soon, and until then, much love to you. God bless, and stay true.